It is Sunday, the 5th of February, 2017. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, just starting up my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy. Over in the right corner there's this gentleman looking at one of my freestanding picket signs, just starting to walk away. Down here we have a picket sign saying Unitarian Universalists misuse blasphemy law to ellipsis, cover up and deny pedophilia and rape. Entirely truthful statement that is based on the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association, the headquarters of Unitarian Universalism in North America, hired Stikeman Elliott barristers and solicitors litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-Andre Coulombe, to accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel and clergy sex abuse cover-up legal bullying that sought to intimidate me into removing blog posts that tell the readily verifiable truth about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. So, got another freestanding picket sign here, Church of the Image Tarnishing Ministers. It originally just said Church of the Image Tarnishing Minister and referred specifically to Reverend Ray Drennan, and it was inspired not only by his image tarnishing of the Unitarian Church of Montreal in terms of the anti-religious intolerance and bigotry that he engaged in with me personally, but also the fact that he very publicly tarnished the image of the Unitarian Church of Montreal in October of 2000 by publishing a very opinionated opinion editorial in the Montreal Gazette, in which he attacked the fact that the state funeral for former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau had been a Roman Catholic religious ceremony. According to Reverend Ray Drennan, who's something of a fundamentalist atheist, it was improper for the funeral for Pierre Elliott Trudeau to be a Roman Catholic state funeral. According to Reverend Ray Drennan, with his secularist ideas, the state funeral for Pierre Elliott Trudeau should have been a secular affair, and certainly not a Roman Catholic church service. That attack on Pierre Elliott Trudeau's funeral rites prompted approximately 50 people to write letters to the editor of the Montreal Gazette, all of them condemning Reverend Ray Drennan's anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, including a letter from a devout atheist, that's how he described himself in his letter, who recognized the anti-religious character of Reverend Ray Drennan's op-ed piece. Of the 50 letters that were submitted to the Gazette, 5 were published, including the one I just mentioned. So approximately 10% of the letters that the Gazette received were published by the Montreal Gazette some days after the article that Reverend Ray Drennan managed to get published in the Gazette. So I got in my left hand a picket sign that says unsafe sect, and in my right hand Unitarian Universalist slander and libel suck you asterisk you. On the other side of that one it says Unitarian Universalist perversion of justice sucks you asterisk you. And of course falsely accusing a person of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in legal bullying that's intended to conceal the fact that your religious community has a certain number of pedophiles and rapists in its midst can be seen as a perversion of justice that seeks to hide perverts within the community, as it were. So, yes, a very interesting sort of perversion of justice to hide perversion. And entirely truthful statement. Thanks to Reverend Dr. Peter Morales and former Executive Vice President of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Kathleen K. Montgomery, deciding that it would be a really good idea to hire Stikeman Elliott, major Canadian corporate law firm, Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, LLP, to have me served with a arrogant and aggressive cease and desist demand letter that accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for blogging about a few sex criminals in the Unitarian Universalist religious community. So it's not quite as cold as it was supposed to be. It's not quite as windy as it was supposed to be based on weather reports. I was expecting it to be quite cold and, more to the point, quite windy based on the weather reports I heard. Thank you. I got a nice honk and a thumbs up from the guy in the car going by. It's not the first time he's done that. I don't know exactly who it is, but I've seen this car, same driver, give me a honk and a thumbs up going by in the past. So this isn't a one-off sign of approval. So one more time, in my left hand, sign saying unsafe sect. In my right hand, Unitarian Universalist perversion of justice, sucks you, asterisk you. That's the one that's facing traffic. And then on the back of it, Unitarian Universalist slander and libel, suck you, asterisk you. It's kind of ironic, you know, that in falsely accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel, the Unitarian Universalist Association is in fact slandering and libeling me, because I'm absolutely not guilty of blasphemous libel. There's no way that I could be found guilty of the criminal act of blasphemous libel on the false pretext that the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, cited in his demand letter. He specifically accused me of making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effective ministers of the association. Good morning. It's always a good morning when I'm accused of blasphemy in the 21st century by atheist Unitarians. Doesn't get better than that. A huge honor and privilege to be accused of blasphemy by Unitarians in the 21st century. I can't think of another person in Canada who shares that privilege. So these two women going by, you know, are doing the Unitarian thing of being nice. It seems that Unitarian Universalists believe that being nice covers a multitude of sins. You know, if you're nice to the protester or whatever, well, that absolves you of any complicity you might have in the misuse of blasphemy law to cover up and deny such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Well, unfortunately, in the real world, things don't quite work that way. So as far as I'm concerned, those two women, who are, to the best of my knowledge, if not members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, fairly regular attenders of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I think I've seen their faces sometimes before. They are just as complicit as every other Unitarian Universalist in the cover-up and denial of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, if they do absolutely nothing to speak out against the Unitarian Universalist Association's false blasphemous libel accusation. And to the best of my knowledge, not one single member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, including the top-level leadership, has ever spoken out against this shameful misuse of blasphemy law. So, and the same goes actually for pretty much the whole Unitarian Universalist religious community. There are literally hundreds and most likely thousands of Unitarian Universalists who are aware of the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accused me of blasphemous libel in an effort to hide pedophilia and rape committed by Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and Richard Buell and a variety of other Unitarian Universalists who I haven't named yet, and in some cases can't name because although their crimes are known, their names are not, because the Unitarian Universalist religious community does a pretty good job of concealing such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers and so on. But nonetheless, it is a fact that a certain number of Unitarian Universalist ministers have been charged, tried, and convicted of the sexual abuse of children. That is sometimes known as pedophilia. And sent to jail for their sex crimes. And others are known to have committed sex crimes against minors, but they never ended up in front of a court of law, which is often the case. For every person who's charged, tried, and convicted of rape, you can be quite sure that there's or pedophilia. You can be quite sure that there's quite a few others that are never charged, tried, and convicted. It's not like every single Unitarian Universalist pedophile or rapist has been charged, tried, and convicted and sentenced to jail term for their sex crimes. Anyhow, today it's the 5th of February, if I haven't already mentioned it, Sunday the 5th of February, and it is my understanding that Reverend Diane Rollert is delivering a sermon on honesty today, which I think is quite interesting. When Reverend Diane Rollert was to replace Reverend Ray Drennan, I sent her an email or two telling her that it was quite probable that she had been lied to about why I'm protesting outside the church and so on, and that she would be very well advised to enter into dialogue with me to hear my side of the story, and then to clean up the mess that Reverend Ray Drennan and also Reverend Peter Bellata left for her to clean up. Because, Reverend Ray Drennan could have done things to clean up his mess before he left, but he didn't. And Reverend Peter Bellata, who was the interim minister for one full year, could have done things to clean up Reverend Ray Drennan's mess so that Reverend Diane Rollert didn't have to deal with it, but he did no such thing either. When Reverend Diane Rollert was replacing Reverend Ray Drennan, there was still this big mess left behind by Drennan. And of course, by that time, in the mid to late 2000s, let's say 2007, 2008, my protest had also evolved to include protest against clergy sexual misconduct and so on. So there was those issues to deal with as well. But Reverend Diane Rollert essentially totally ignored my emails. I never got a written response from her emails. I did have a brief conversation with her in which she acknowledged that she had received them. But she basically made it clear she wasn't going to do anything. Then what she did, which is incredibly foolish. She rounded up a bunch of church members and got them to sign affidavits about how, terribly frightened of me they were. And then she claimed to be very, very frightened of me. That's an exact quote from one of her depositions to the police. I had not said or done anything that should cause any reasonable person to be very, very frightened of me. So there were really only two possibilities. Reverend Diane Rowlett really was very, very frightened of me, and thus suffering from some kind of phobia, some kind of unreasonable fear of yours truly. And she had posted a sermon to the internet about her fear of flying. She had a severe phobia of flying, so it's not out of the question that she could have developed a severe phobia of the person protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So, it's possible that she truly was very, very frightened of me, but it's also possible that she was lying through her teeth and that she wasn't the least bit frightened of me, but what she wanted to do was, by claiming to be very, very frightened of me and by rounding up several other members of the church to claim that they were very, very frightened of me, to obtain a restraining order that would force an end to my protest, and in her mind, one that would put a permanent end to my protest. So we challenged the attempt to get the restraining order. We contested it because, as far as I was concerned, Reverend Diane Rowlett nor anyone else in the church actually had any reasonable grounds to be very, very frightened of